audio issues, but I thought, oh, here we go.
All right, perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. April 5th, and it snowed the other day, which is interesting. So hopefully we get out of that and get into the spring. Personally, I love that. Before we get started, Irma, would you mind just doing a quick roll call for us, please?
In case she's having audio issues, I'll go ahead and do it. So Jeff Miller.
Here.
Mark May.
Here.
Thomas Crozier. I saw Tom. I'm not seeing him now. Maybe he'll rejoin. John Hannum.
Yep, here.
Justin Lindman.
Here.
Jeremy Mackey.
Here.
Ashley Morey.
Here.
Samantha Ross is excused. Mark Smith.
Here.
Jason Stats. Absent. Quorum.
And I think I see Tom. Did we get Tom marked off?
No, Tom was on. Oh, there you go. I just didn't. Yeah, maybe he disappeared there for a second. I saw him earlier.
Well, perfect. Thank you, Tori. Jumping right into the agenda. Has anyone had an opportunity to review the agenda? And if so, would entertain a motion to approve or amend?
So moved.
Thank you, Mark.
Second.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion? Never hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope. Unanimous. I'm sorry, Tom, your hand went up a little late. Was that an opposition or just a late aye? Late aye. We are not getting your audio, by the way. Yep, perfect. Thank you. Moving down the agenda, minutes. Would love to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Mark.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, John. And thank you, Mark Smith, for a third. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
And I've lost my. Is everyone there? Did we vote?
Yeah.
Because my thing just locked up, so I don't know if everyone voted aye on that or. I'll tell you what, April, awesome month so far. Really getting off strong this morning. So for clarity, for the record, did we vote on that and everyone voted aye? Okay, perfect. All right, moving on down. Awesome. Action items. Tori, do you want to jump in here on this 20-minute section of action item?
Yep. All right, everyone. Can you see my screen presentation?
Yes.
So this will be quicker probably than the 20 minutes. This is revisiting the topic that we had last month on the exception to the maximum grant amount for the redevelopment grant program. So I'll just go through, these slides should be familiar, pretty much the same what we saw last month, but a lot of things happen in the month. So I thought it would be good to revisit it, understand the context, and then discuss the exception criteria. So the new as of 2015 redevelopment grant program has helped properties pretty much throughout the district, the West Salem urban renewal area. So these are the projects that have happened. We typically see about 2 to 3 per year. So this is the work that has been done since then. These are some of the projects. So referencing previous slide, this is the outcome of what that investment has entailed. It's really been a range of projects from commercial retail to manufacturing, office spaces. So, like I said, there's a toolbox program for years before we revisited changes to the program. And just like other communities throughout Oregon, it's typically geared with a toolbox of like facade, restoring historic buildings. Well, historic buildings, we only have one in West Salem, which we did invest in with the old city hall there. So there was more a need for helping, with environmental cleanup and repurposing existing building, and really helping to provide an incentive for old buildings to come down and encourage new development. So that's what the changes in 2015 targeted. As far as eligible projects are concerned, again, you have to be in the district. It has to be, the purpose is to benefit the community overall, overcome blight, engage underutilized properties, but also add to the tax base. So nonprofits, those type of organizations, it's not applicable. It's really geared at new development, new building square footage, new equipment. So new equipment being permanent, affixed, like property taxed, heavy equipment that's typically used in manufacturing settings. The way it's set up is a 20% match, a maximum 300,000. That's what we'll be talking about, that this exception is geared at. So it's 2 years to complete the work from the time that they get the grant commitment. And then they have to retain the investment for 10 years. Obviously, a new building improvement, new building construction should remain in the district for that long or longer. That's really aimed at the manufacturing piece. That's a tight balance, because you could have like a smaller company invest in one piece of equipment, and then if they expand, we didn't want to hinder them where they have to retain like an old piece of equipment for 10 years. If they're expanding at a rate where within 5 years they wanted to switch it out, the way that it's set up is it has to be of equal or greater value, so they could replace that piece of equipment. And then the public benefit. So in the case of manufacturing, you're obviously the investments, you have the jobs, and then on the office and the commercial retail, hopefully we've seen a lot of plans for like mixed use and some residential that would be applied to the need for varied housing throughout the whole city. So hopefully we'll start to see some of that work come online. So now we're getting into a Second Street. A lot of these other properties that have a little more obstacles to overcome, they're getting engaged. And so that's what this maximum grant amount addresses. So the 300,000 is the maximum. There aren't any right now exceptions. Riverfront downtown, North Gateway, they all have exceptions that they've gone through. So we're basically getting in line with them. And it's an opportunity for the group to, last discussion that we had, everyone kind of weighed in on what they wanted to see as a requirement for the agency ultimately make a decision to approve a project for a grant amount more than 300,000. So what this does is just help make that recommendation of things to consider when they're considering doing more than 300,000. So the only thing that's changed in the criteria, so the first we had the adaptive reuse. So that's a significant change from like industrial to multifamily or mixed use, higher investment, also an increased density. So a lot of these are single story. So if they want to go 2, 3, 4 stories, that would be considered adaptive reuse. Higher investment. So an eligible project cost has to be more than 3 million. And then the third piece that you haven't seen yet that the group wanted to have as part of the criteria was a visual improvement. You could have things happening, if the building's sound enough, the investment could be interior and then perhaps the second floor without really addressing the ground floor. And last month, the group wanted to have that strengthened. So the zoning code requires if the building plane on the ground floor is altered more than 20%, then they have design review requirements that they have to include. So that's more windows, entry treatment, weather protection. So what this does in this, from what I understood from the group, what they wanted to see is basically remove that 20%. I think in most cases, the building plan will probably change more than 20%, so it will trigger it. But what this does is addresses that possibility that the ground floor of the building plane doesn't change more than 20% to require what the group wanted to see as far as like the visual change at the street level. So that's, I'll just read it. So the ground floor Main Street style project enhancements in line with zoning design requirements. So that just references the requirements for design review, windows, entry treatment, weather protection, regardless of level of alteration. So hopefully that addresses the visual piece the group is looking for. And then as far as process, if you guys support it, it'd be a recommendation to the Urban Renewal Agency as council, and for that meeting, we're aiming for a May 8th date for their consideration. That's the process. That's all I have. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Tori. I just going back to last meeting, and everyone else can jump in who has better memory than I do. Were we looking to remove the 20% thing? In other words, by removing the 20% requirement, it basically mandates that there has to be something done to the exterior.
Right, if they're seeking that exception, yeah. So if they want more than 300,000, then they have to be addressing that ground floor, regardless of the 20%.
I gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Were there any questions or feedback from the group? Not hearing any. Tori, do you
Jeff,
need
for your reference? So yeah, this is an action item, and I framed an approval, so you guys don't have to use it. It's just a frame, like a framework for you to reference. You can make whatever recommendation you want, but yeah, this is an action item that we'll take to the agency on May 8th.
right?
Before we vote, I don't have a current, but I have a potential conflict, so I will not be voting on this.
Thank you, Mark. So with that, is there a motion to approve as presented, or an amendment to that, or change, or make some sort of motion? John, I saw you unmute.
Oh, I was just gonna put together the proper language to make a motion, but
Perfect.
I don't have any changes to it, so.
Okay.
So I can make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Justin. Any further discussion? Jeremy, you have a storefront here in West Salem in that urban renewal area. Any concerns from your perspective? No?
Not at all. I think this is in line.
Perfect. Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion, we'll just put it to vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
None being opposed and one abstention. Motion passes. Thank you all.
All right, thank you.
So moving on, we have a guest. We have two guests, but we're going to start with Courtney. Courtney, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be sort of back. I would rather be in the West Salem Library visiting and clinking cups, but here we are. Hi.
Agreed.
I'll just, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Courtney Knox Bush, and I work in the mayor and city manager's office. I used to be in urban development, working in Tori's capacity and role. I think I was there for 8 years. Anyway, who cares? Hi. One of the things that I get to do is right now, I do communications, legislative policy, strategic planning, and a little bit of organizational change, which is sort of fun. And what I want to talk to you about is just, I want to give you kind of an update on where we are and what's happening and what's next anyway, kind of an inside baseball moment where we can talk about, you can kind of come in for a second and you can drink as much of the Kool-Aid as you want, or none, if you would prefer. I want to talk to you about 4 kind of things. The first thing I want to do is just give you an update on what the city council is doing in terms of strategic planning and their priorities, which come out every year in what they call a policy agenda, which is really kind of their work plan. And it's direction to staff about what kinds of things should be priorities in the budget. The budget is going to be the second thing I want to tell you about. The third thing, I want to just really high level talk about some of the bond projects that you might expect. I know Aaron's going to do a lot more, and he should, because he has the expertise. I do not. And then I want to round out with sort of some upcoming things. There's so much going on. It's kind of exhausting, but I want to give you just a preview so that you have a sense in case you want to participate in any of the stuff that's coming on. Excuse me. I don't plan on doing a presentation. I'd rather talk and hear from you if you have questions or you want to dive a little bit deeper into any of the things that I talk about and glaze over. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just give you kind of a quick orientation to the things that are important to the city council. And that's a reflection of what we hear every year in October. We do a statistically valid poll to see how we're serving you and what you think are really important and how we're doing in terms of satisfaction on those things. That kind of informs what council wants to really push on. So this year, we have 4 main things. They're the same things from last year. They're responding to our sheltering crisis. That is the #1 thing that is on people's minds in our community, as you might expect. The second thing is something we call planning for our future, and that has to do with everything that was our Salem, everything that's coming next, which will be transportation, land use, climate-related stuff. The third thing is called engaging our community. We could always get better, and so that's what we're focusing on as a sort of a guidepost to keep ourselves motivated. And then the fourth thing is sustaining our infrastructure and our services. And that has to do with the bond and then the budget. So, okay. On the sheltering issue, later today at 1 o'clock, we're going to open Yaquina Hall, the former nurses' quarters on the state hospital campus. I was over there last afternoon and it looks great. We're going to have an opening at 1 o'clock. It's going to have tours. And there will be a virtual tour if you can't make it. I know that's short notice. And it's going to have 52 affordable housing units with some permanent supportive housing. That's code for like wraparound services so that it helps people who might have lived unsheltered in our community for a while, helps them transition into being indoors and kind of what those expectations might be. So that's really short shrift on a really big thing. Very cool. And then later, April 24th, we're going to open the Navigation Center. And this is 75 spaces for folks to transition from the street into whatever service they need. Low barrier, no barrier. They can come with pets. They can come with spouses. All those things that make it hard to transition into other things that are set up. So the Navigation Center, April 24th. We're doing that one at 8 a.m. just for you and to capture some of our legislative delegation who helped us fund it. So that's cool. In the planning for our future stuff, you might have heard we were doing like a 3-year community conversation about visioning for land use and transportation and development. That's called our comprehensive plan update. It's something we have to do. And it's great because it helps us think forward and then build all the zoning and the land use and all that stuff to get there. The Salem in Motion is the next thing, and that's like our transportation system plan update. It's also trying to be responsive to the climate friendly and equitable communities legislation that was passed. I don't remember which session, but it was enough ago that we're trying to respond, and we have a really tight deadline. So that's why you might have heard about citywide parking reform. That's because the state's telling us we need to be responsive to climate friendly and equitable communities. So all of that stuff is happening. It's a big slug of work. we're going to be talking about transportation planning for the next I think 2027 is when we think we're going to be done. So just hang out, lots of visioning, and we're going to get to the projects in like 25, 26 for those of you that really, that's exciting, right? Getting to see the projects, but there's going to be a lot of talking, and join when you can. On engaging our community, I just wanted you all to know that if you've ever been to the Civic Center, you know that you have to go a lot of different places to get an answer. We're putting a customer service center in one place. So when you come to the building, if you're familiar with it, you might park underground. You don't have to jockey for position with police cars anymore, but you could park underground. You just come up into the atrium and you would go straight to the left, and there's a beautiful, we want it to feel welcoming. I hope you agree when you get there. It opens in June. It's going to have a whole bunch of sort of like bank teller windows, and you can get anything done you want to get done there. If what you need done involves a staff person who's in a different place, there are going to be a couple different rooms where you can remote in like we're doing today and have your question answered right away. So it's called the Customer Service Center. We have it open right now virtually. So info@cityofsalem.net is the way you get a question answered, anything, and I don't answer them anymore. There's a whole group of people who answer them. info@cityofsalem.net. And the phone number there is 588-7272. So if you have a question, we now have somebody who answers. You don't have to find the right place. Okay, we'll do it for you. Don't forget, if you have 24/7, anything that you notice, like there's a pothole or a light out, do call our Public Works Dispatch. They like to know those things, and your eyes and ears help us be better. That number is 588-6311. So there you go. Those are two great resources. We're also doing a big neighborhood association marketing campaign. Wherever you live, hopefully it's in Salem, we have a neighborhood association and you are a member. And we're trying to get the word out so that more people can get involved and engaged, because we spend a lot of time visiting with neighbors. And it's a great way to learn about all this stuff I'm babbling about today. On the infrastructure and services thing, that idea of sustaining, this is the fourth issue. So remember, responding to sheltering, planning for our future, engaging our community, and sustaining infrastructure and services. Hey, if you voted, thank you. In November, we have that $300 million bond. I think that was the last time I was here. Wasn't it? We were talking about the bond. Yeah. Okay. Well, we got the bond passed and we're scrambling, getting some things in place. For those of you that like the back financial channels, I'll just say that we put out our bond. We got a better rate than we expected. We put out the first sale, got a better rate than we expected. I think we were guessing 425. We got 375 or something. So that's huge. That's on $100 million. That's a lot. And we got premium of more than 7 million. So that also gets built into the program that we can offer the community. And it, for Aaron, I'll just say, it mitigates some of the risk that the engineers have about the costs over the next 10 years. So this is all good news. And then we ordered all the fire trucks and stuff. So 26 million was allocated for the bond, but we haven't spent all of it for fire just yet, but we do have the trucks on order, which is great. I can't remember. I wrote that last week. I can't remember when they get here. I feel like it's, I'll check before I speak. I want to say 24, 25, but I think winter 25. Yeah, by January 25, they should be here. And then if you've been out to Minto, that paving project is underway now. So that's cool. Lots going on. And Aaron, you'd say more. Okay, so then what's next in terms of budget? So all of those things are priorities and we're moving into budget cycle. So we budget in a strange way, not the way you would in real life, but we separate our capital things, which you have experience with because you've been listening to Tori for a while, and our operating things. So the capital is the bond, yay, great, and we have other ways. And then the operating is what we're going to be talking about for April and into May. We start July 1 of every year and we go to June 30. That's the way we budget. What you should know is that we're having another work session tonight about revenue options. So I'll just give you the tiny bit. Generally speaking, the city's been spending about $12 to $15 million more a year than we have. This is sort of a long-standing issue. If you were around in the 90s, you might remember Measure 5 and Measure 50, kind of capping the rate of property tax, and our expenses go up more, right, than the cap. So COLA is 3 whatever, it's more now. And the property tax rate is capped at below 3% a year. So as our expenses are going up, our revenues are where they are. That you can see the problem. And so we have shed a lot of things over the years, and we just can't do that anymore. And so the conversation is about how do we fix sort of the structural problem in our revenue system in Oregon, which is true for all cities. And it's also California and Washington. But anyway, so we're looking at some revenue options. Council's looking at them again tonight. And I was also going to say the COVID relief money was great and helped us continue to do more things. We also invested a lot of our ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act. We invested a lot of that in sheltering programs, which were really important at that time. But what that means is the micro-shelter village communities, our homeless response team, those things don't have funding after June 30 of 24. And the navigation center I just mentioned is also going to run out of money on June 30 of 25. So we have sort of a structural problem, and then we have added services that we've built in to respond to community needs, and we're going to be in a bit of a pickle. So we know that now, and we're going to be trying to talk through and plan for how we could do better. So the budget meetings, so that's tonight, and then the budget meetings start on April 19. And they're going to be talking a lot about all of the city services that we provide. And then they're going to have a little moment about the capital projects that are forecast for the next 5 years. And so if you want to, you can listen into those. You don't have to come to the Civic Center. You can watch them on YouTube live, streaming live. And you can also watch them later if you want. If you hear something and you're curious, you can watch later. It all will wrap up in June at a public hearing with the city council. So I'm going to slip into bond projects unless there are any questions about all that I've babbled so far. Okay, going on. Bond projects. You guys know about Marine Drive. You'll hear more about that, I think, from Aaron. There's a Dokes Ferry project from Brush College to Emerald. That's in 2026 for construction. We have safer crossings, missing sidewalks, and paths and trails. We have just buckets. So the council wasn't really confident about what the project needs are going to be over the next 10 years. So they just reserved some money for those kinds of things. And we're going to have a broad conversation about what those projects should be, work their way through council, and then fund them as we go. Parks, there are some playground upgrades at Brush College in 25, Wallace restrooms in 2030, and then shelter and sports field renovation at Orchard Heights in 2031. Also, if you want to learn more about, so now in terms of upcoming events, so I'm moving quickly, sorry about this. Tomorrow, if you want to go to the Chamber of Public Policy Forum, you can learn about the downtown parking system. We're going to have a bunch of folks there talking about that tomorrow. And then I wanted you also to know that we're adding more library hours beginning May 5th. That's a Monday. And what that means for West is that we will be opening Monday through Thursday from 12 to 5 and Saturday 12 to 6. So that's good news. They're also adding hours at the main branch. And then in terms of community events and activities, the last topic I brought to you today, the recreation guide came out last week. If you've got people in your life who like to recreate, it's a great opportunity to join some programs or the softball league or whatever. It's out, it's online, it's great. The city has partnered with a company called Albertina Kerr, and we're doing Project Search. So we're hosting about 8 interns who are young adults with developmental delays who are being placed across the city in a bunch of different sites. So that's kind of cool. That'll go on through December. The Salem Police Department has a 30 by 30 pledge. They're trying to increase the number of female officers to 30% of Salem police. That's kind of cool too. And we have a whole bunch of videos online. If you haven't seen our new website, if you scroll, below the scroll, there's a whole video section, and we have a whole bunch of videos about bond projects, including one about Wallace. We have a whole bunch of 24/7 videos that we're doing now, which is about kind of getting to know a little bit more about the people who are doing all the things and what those things are anyway. Like, we do a lot of great things. My favorite video so far is about the funny smell guy, the guy that you call if you smell something funny in the water. So you can get to know all the different things that we do. There's a whole bunch of other activities. We're sitting in Arbor Month. It used to be Arbor Day, but we're doing all kinds of things around trees and tree plantings this month. And there's a whole bunch of opportunities to engage in that if you want. We're doing some more neighborhood street murals. I don't know if you guys heard that we did this, but last year we had an opportunity with Travel Salem to do some neighborhood street murals. So it's on the street and it's neighborhood focused art. So they find an artist and then all the neighbors come out and paint. We can do the neighborhoods we missed this year. So that's really exciting. If you live in a neighborhood that didn't get to do one, Irma Coleman in the city manager's office runs our neighborhood program, and she's pulling those things together. And I could just go on and on. We're doing summer movies in the park again, National Night Out, the Make Music Day. The summer is going to be crazy fun. And there's first Friday free concerts at the amphitheater again. So that's really fun. I'm going to stop talking.
Well, Courtney, thank you very much. Real quickly, are there any questions from the group for Courtney? I have a question, but I want to open it up to everybody else real quick. Not seeing any. Courtney, when on the last revenue thing, I am drawing a blank that I went to. You said they're meeting again tonight. Can you recall kind of the high level options to try and bridge that gap of funding? If I remember correctly, there was, doing something different with the utility bill, like maybe doing rate increases there. There was some other options. And I apologize, I'm drawing the blank. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I think it's important for people to understand what's being discussed.
I appreciate the question, Jeff, and I don't feel like I'm being put on the spot. So there are, it's complicated, and I apologize for what I'm about to do to you. But there are 2 options, and they are tied together. So you may remember pre-COVID, if that time existed, pre-COVID, we had a city operations fee that the council adopted. So you might have seen it on your utility bill if you're getting utilities from us, water and all that. So we added an operations fee, and that solved half of what was the revenue problem at the time. The second half was going to be this thing called an employee paid payroll tax. It happened to be positioned to go to the ballot in May of 2020. And in March, we had a very different reality, and the council elected to pull it from the ballot. And so what we're talking about now, and this is after, I think, a 1.5 year conversation about a whole bunch of revenue options. There was this ginormous task force. I think it was 18 members, started in 2018. They made recommendations in 2019. Anyway, pre-COVID, it all happened. And so what we're talking about now is the problem is so great, and the need for responding more quickly when you have an emergency and you call 911 and you want fire EMS to show up. We've underfunded that service for so long that the response times are getting too long for us to be able to be there when people need us most. The same thing is true in police. We have a whole bunch of independent confirmation that we need about 70 more officers to be responsive to our community needs. You may have seen that we're not able to do some things anymore. If you call about barking dogs and those kinds of things, we're not able to provide any support right now. And so these things still have a need. So it's twofold. It's an operations fee increase, and then looking again at some kind of employee paid payroll tax. So the operations fee increase, it seems like that might be a council manic or council recommendation, council implementation. The employee paid payroll tax is something that it feels like the council might want to put out for a vote again on a future ballot. So the consideration tonight is about the operations fee increase, which would appear in the coming year budget. So that would be fairly quickly coming in, staving off some of the, bleeding, for lack of a better word. And then the employee paid payroll tax, they're considering 3 different rates that would sustain some existing service and might add some of that sheltering service I was talking about. So the one rate would keep some services, and I don't believe the first rate does anything with our sheltering. The second rate would sustain those same services and add a little bit of sheltering dollars. And the third rate would, again, it's cumulative, and add all the sheltering. And so the question is, which kind of rate and what kind of services do we want to offer? And the council will consider that, and then we'll probably put it to a vote on a future ballot. So I'm not sure if that's specific enough, Jeff, but I don't know. It's happening as we go.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I could have swore, and I apologize. I should have my notes out from when I went to that meeting, because it seemed like there was 2 other options, but nonetheless, we don't need to digress and keep going through it. Thank you for being.
There were 2 other things that were being discussed. One was an operations, a levy. And so I'm not sure that one is still being considered right now, because a levy is something that is, if you're living in Polk County, every 3 to 5 years, there's an opportunity to re-up and support the sheriff and police service in West. That is less sustained, and it's we have less confidence about standing up a whole, hiring people and standing up a service that we may not be able to continue. So that right now is the view of that particular thing. And then again, nobody in their right mind budgets the way cities do, but gas tax. So our transportation services fund is, as more and more people are making different choices about driving, we get some portion of the gas tax you pay at the pump for local street improvements. And there's less of that revenue coming in. And so we're looking at, may look at a local gas tax to help fund local streets. And that's a separate thing. So the sources and uses in government dollars are really important. You get a certain kind of money, gas tax, and it can only go for roads. So the money that we're talking about, and I should have started with that. I'm sorry, Jeff. The general fund is the part where property taxes pay for police, fire, library, sheltering work that we're doing, and other kinds of general government things that don't have the direct source of funding. And that's where we have the biggest problem. And so when we're talking about solving for this sort of structural imbalance, we're talking about police officers, firefighters, EMS, we're talking about library hours, we're talking about Center 50 Plus, we're talking about all those things that we do that don't have a direct funding source, if that helps. Sorry about that.
Yeah, perfect. And I didn't mean to bring the group down a rabbit hole here. I just find that sort of thing really interesting. And so need to ask the question, but we need to probably move on at this point. So Courtney, thank you for joining us and giving us an overview of what's going on with the city down at the mayor's office and what we should be getting engaged in. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a great day. Moving forward, Aaron's with us today. Aaron,
Yes.
how are you?
Good, thank you. For those of you who don't know, I'm Aaron Edelman. I'm from the engineering division, program manager here. So Tori asked me to join and talk through some of the bond projects that are close to your area. I don't have quite as much content as Courtney, but I'll try to flash a few exhibits up on the screen, and then feel free to ask some questions as we go through them. So I'll start with the first one. Hopefully you can all see that, Marine Drive. There we go. So this is kind of the middle section of Marine Drive. This is the piece that was funded with the bond. Basically starts up here on the north end of Harriet, where there's already an existing short section of Marine Drive that was constructed years ago by Development. Comes down to the south, kind of curves around, and then it'll connect into the Fifth Avenue connection here. And we'll extend on a short piece of the multi-use path that will connect across into the park here as well. So we're just kind of getting started on this project. Right now there's an RFP out for consultants to propose on to be the team that pulls this all together. That RFP closes on April 18th. So kind of coming up pretty soon. So what you'll kind of see through the course of the next year or so is, we'll get out here and we'll start surveying the area, gather all the information so we can really start diving deep into the design and start bringing this together. One of the things you may see happening this summer, later this summer, so the city's been actively attempting to purchase the easements and pieces of property needed to buy to construct this corridor. So we now own several areas, kind of scattered throughout this area. And this summer, there's going to be a project that demos some existing structures that are in the way. There's a house up here. I don't know if you can see my little hand. So we'll demolish that house. And then kind of down in here, there's a whole bunch of other structures. So we'll try to clean those sites up. Some of them kind of in this area, they're pretty rough. So we're going to have a small little project that will come in and clean those areas up in preparation for this bigger project coming down the road. So that's the Marine Drive one. Any questions on that one before I jump to another one?
Aaron, real quickly, sorry. What is actually going to be done? Is it just this little tiny section here? Where your hand is there?
Yeah, it's this whole piece. So if you're familiar with the bigger piece of Marine Drive, right, the original concept wrapped around here, kind of came down here all the way down to Wallace, and then it also extends north up to River Bend Road. So this is kind of the middle chunk that's being constructed. So it'll construct Fifth, it'll construct the Beckett connection, it'll improve the sidewalks along the existing Harriet, and then try to zoom in here. So this is the special cross section that's been in the TSP for years. So this is the proposed cross section that'll get built, one lane in each direction. On the east side, there's a 12-foot multi-use path, and then the normal 5-foot sidewalk on the other side. So,
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
sorry, I should have jumped into that. I missed that. Good question. All right, with that, I'll try to jump to another exhibit, project for you close by. Courtney mentioned this one as well. This is the pavement rehabilitation project on Dokes Ferry. So this is maybe I should back up to Marine Drive. Marine Drive is kind of a long drawn out project. We know we got a lot of pieces to get through in the design piece. So it's slated right now to construct in 2930. If things go together in a better way than we've kind of planned out for, you may see something happen sooner out there. It'd be nice to get out on that corridor because it's pretty uncommon for the city to go out and build a new road like that. But ideally, if we could, we'd get out early. We'd do a grading project where we'd kind of prep the site and prepare it for like franchise utilities to come in and do their work and then come back and actually build the street. But that was a pretty long drawn out process. So we'll see how that evolves over the years. So jumping back to this one, Dokes Ferry is something you'll see happening much sooner. It's slated to be constructed in 2026. It's basically just a pavement rehabilitation project. You kind of can see the limits here. We don't quite get to the Brush College intersection, and we go on the other end, the northern end, to really our kind of basically we're looking at the existing paving condition, and there's a line here where this is much better shape than the stuff we're showing to the south. Along with the pavement work, you'll see the curb ramps be redone. It's kind of this orange shading. What we're doing there when we come through with paving work, we have to bring the facilities up to compliance with ADA rules. So pretty simple project. You'll probably see survey folks out in this area in the next couple months, kicking this off and kind of getting it going. So that's that one. Any questions on that one? No. Let me see if I can jump to a different screen here for you. So another project kind of close by is there's a little bridge project, 4 little bridges. One of them is kind of close to the downtown area, so I thought I'd mention this one. So there was 4 bridges that were included with the bond that have existing load rating restrictions. So these 4 bridges will have some strengthening improvements to remove those load ratings from them. So this one here is kind of close to like Minimins, or well, I guess the police stations may be a good landmark to. So there's that one on Liberty, one on 15th, 17th, and Mission. And that work's getting kicked off as well. We're in the final stages of hiring a consultant to start the design on those. And that's slated to be constructed also in 2026. So a lot taken off in a hurry. We're pushing a lot of work out the door on the design side, get consultants moving on these projects to get them going. So, guess another one I hadn't thought of, but maybe is fairly close, is we're also getting started on the Union Street Bikeway. If you're familiar with that at all, so there's an existing project that's constructing a portion of the Union Street Bikeway this summer. And the bond included a project that does either end of it. So the little segment from Commercial back to the Railroad Bridge, and then the far end that wraps it all the way around to 12th Street. So that's getting kicked off as well to pretty much complete that entire piece. So yeah, that's kind of what I had for the bond. Any other questions, like in any other areas of the city? So I mean, I'm kind of involved in the transportation side of the bond, I guess, if you have any other areas you want to ask about. Or
I don't at this time. Aaron, anything from the group? No.
That was good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Have a great day. Well, very good. We are kind of to the point now where we're just looking for some updates from organizations, the West Salem organizations, West Salem Neighborhood Association, West Salem Business Association. If anyone has anything to add. Not seeing any. Tori, did you end up attending the last neighborhood association?
Yeah, I've been going to all of the neighborhood association meetings since November. We presented in November and in January, and then I've just been attending just to track what's happening there. And something Aaron didn't mention, because you already know about it, is Second Street. It's out to bid now, so we should start construction hopefully in June or late June. So for that reason and others, I'm staying with the group. They have a meeting tonight, so you want to participate. They meet the first Wednesday of every month at Roth's at 6 p.m. So I'll be there tonight as well.
Thank you, Tori. Jeremy, did you have anything by chance, since Sam is not here, regarding the West Salem Business Association?
No, I was out of town for the last meeting. I couldn't make it. We do have another meeting coming up on the 27th, Thursday, 27th at Roth's at noon.
Perfect. Thank you. I think Courtney mentioned this earlier. Tomorrow at the chamber, we have a business advocacy meeting that is talking about downtown parking and maybe the restructuring and converting non-paid parking to paid parking and kind of what that looks like. And there's several groups that are going to be there. Mayor Hoy is going to be there in attendance. Kristen Rutherford will be there on behalf of the city talking about things. And then there'll be the downtown business association kind of giving their input and things of that nature. So if downtown paid parking is of interest in a topic, tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. at the chamber office is happening. Other than that, I'm not sure if there's anything else going on that should be mentioned, unless there's anything anyone else from the group wants to chat about. Upcoming events? No, doesn't sound like it. Well, then with that said, we are kind of at the end of the agenda. Topics for the next meeting. I know Tori had sent out a kind of a calendar of topics that were high level topics for the year. Of course, I think if there's anything that anyone from this group wants to bring up or add to that agenda, you can certainly email Tori or Mark or myself, so we can get that on the agenda to discuss. So with
Right,
that,
really quickly, Jeff,
Yeah,
sorry
please.
to jump in. For May, we have planned to hear from Sarah Long, who manages urban renewal projects in North Gateway urban renewal area, as well as McGilchrist. McGilchrist is something that's coming up pretty quickly here too. So it'd be good to get an update on the status of that project. So she'll be discussing those items in May.
Yeah, excuse me. I think that'll be a good opportunity to hear from Sarah, just to compare and contrast our little URA versus theirs, and the one out on North Gateway and the one on McGilchrist. The one on McGilchrist I'm looking forward to, of the project going on out there, because I think that that's a pretty key thing for some of the industrial users, small industrial users in Salem. So that'll be neat. So with that, unless there's anything for the good of the order, Mark, you unmuted. Is there something you'd like to? No, just unmuting.
I was unmuting to be able to say goodbye when the time was correct.
Appropriate timing. I love it. Well, with that, then, unless there's anything for the good of the order, we will adjourn. Not hearing any.
Thank
Have a
you to
great day,
city
everyone.
staff. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.